I want to talk about this story about Keir Starmer putting bobbies on the beat, and he says that if certain parts of the country don't do it, well, then they will lose cash. And Starmer has spoken to police forces about that. Graham Wettone is a former police officer and author of How to Be a Police Officer. Graham, this whole notion, this whole notion, I should say, of neighbourhood policing. Does it work? Is that something, I mean, people want to see bobbies on the beat, but does it actually work? Does it help bring crime levels down? Because that's what everybody wants to see.
Yeah, evening, Peter. It does work, but it has to work in balance with response policing as well. The public basically want officers when they need them, when there's an emergency going on. So they dial 999. That's when they really want the police to turn up. It's reassuring to see your community officers, and community teams can do an excellent work and have had some fantastic results when they're properly resourced and funded, and they can actually pay attention and actually work the community they're in. Don't forget that many police stations and police buildings have been sold. So officers are now having to travel even further to get to these community beats, which is one issue. So you're taking hours out of their days when they're now travelling to their community to work. So that reduces the time. But if they're given the resources and the time to actually go in and build trust and confidence, and police forces can retain those officers in those roles, they can be very effective. You know, back when I started policing, we had officers that worked their local beats, their local communities for many years, and they were literally a font of all knowledge and information about that area.
Well, I think that, you know, there's a lot in that, Graham, and I think there are a lot of people worried about crime in their area. They're worried about the practicalities of crime. They're worried about whether police officers will come out. I mean, having a named officer and these 1,300 extra officers, I think there are a few questions about where they're actually going to come from.
There's a lot of questions about the numbers. I think you have to almost I'd like to be a bit of an optimist. It's a small step, very small step, towards resourcing community teams again and providing some reassurance to the public. The public like having community officers that they know and can contact. Whether it's going to be one named officer or a team, I'd question. The numbers being bandied around today by the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary, I think it's something like 13,000 in 4 years. And whether that's across all 43 police forces remains to be seen. I think I heard another stat about 3,000 in the first year. Again, is that across 43 police forces? Because that's a very thin spread of numbers then when you're looking at where you're going to apply those numbers. So, you know, I think there needs to be some honesty and managing expectations of the public here. This isn't an instant fix. It sounds like it's over a long period of time, small numbers, and maybe some small results.
I think you're absolutely right. Can I ask you about West Yorkshire Police? Because they are blocking white applicants to boost diversity. They're saying that they can't apply for jobs until much later in the process than people from other ethnic groupings. Isn't that just racism?
It sounds a perverse decision to me, and I think some senior leaders and some managers in policing almost lose what diversity is. Diversity is a strength in policing, but diversity covers age, gender, sexuality, nationality, so many diverse skills and abilities. That's where policing gets its strength from. If you speak to most teams of police officers, they welcome the diversity that each team has, because one of your basic skills in policing is the ability to communicate to everybody, finding some common ground to speak to people, be them a victim of crime or even a suspect. Diversity shouldn't just be about ethnicity. And I think that's where I can't understand this decision by West Yorkshire. They should be actually recruiting the best people for the job. All police officers want next to them is someone who's competent, capable and committed to do the job. Yeah. I never minded what ethnicity, gender, age the person was with me, but just were they competent and capable and ready to commit to do the job with me.
Tell me about the Notting Hill Carnival, because we know that one person was murdered, 8 people were stabbed, 50 police officers injured, and now a thug has been found guilty of murdering a young mother in front of her child at last year's festival. This is Shaquille Taboo, who is 20, was convicted this week of the brutal stabbing of 32-year-old Cher Maximin, who was caught in a violent clash during the 2024 Carnival alongside her 3-year-old daughter. There are calls still for the Notting Hill Carnival to be scrapped.
Well, I don't know about scrapped. I'd seriously, it outgrew itself years ago. When I was policing Carnival in the 80s, the 90s, early 2000s, it felt like it outgrown its location then. Great idea to have it when it first started, but there are so many people going now. There are so many tight London streets in and around West London, Notting Hill, West Kensington, under Trellick Tower. The whole area isn't conducive to having those large crowds and the vehicles travelling around it. I think it needs to be moved to somewhere that is more or better located, better placed, and better resourced to deal with the amount of people that are turning up there. Because the area where it is now isn't. It doesn't surprise me that crime keeps happening at Carnival, because for me it's in completely the wrong location, and I think it needs to be reviewed. If it was any other event and you were risk assessing it, it wouldn't be allowed to take place.
Graham, thank you for your thoughts this evening. Graham Wettone there, former police officer, author of How to Be a Police Officer.